Call the meeting back to order. Let's quickly get H4 out of our hair. This is just a letter. You want to give it input? This is H4.
Sure. Oh, yes. So Supervisor Watson brought to my attention that the Plymouth County Economic Recovery Committee had authored a letter regarding the way the fire, particularly the Moonlight fire, impacts timber production and so forth, and how it impacts the communities. And so, and that letter's attached. So I've drafted a letter taking a lot from their letter for the chairman to sign that basically endorses that letter, because the same situation exists in Lassen County as in Plymouth, although Moonlight Fire was predominantly in Plymouth County, the other ones they referenced, but we've had the Rush Fire and others. So that's.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate Richard getting this done for this agenda. Reason being, this is going to be one of the topics of discussion at the biannual meetings I've been attending in Sacramento with regional forester and congressman. So I wanted to make sure that we are on record as being part of the effort.
Right. And one thing you want to add, Richard, is that up there in the Big Valley area, I know for a fact that it's in Lassen County, but it's under the jurisdiction of the Modoc National Forest. So you need to add Modoc, and I'm not for sure, but where the line goes on the west side down there, below Pittville in that country, I'm pretty sure that might be under the Shasta County. So you may have to add Modoc, Shasta, Lassen, and Plymouth forests. Let me double check on the Shasta, I don't know for sure.
Okay, I put, I can do that. We have Lassen and Plymouth, so.
Yeah, well, there's
Check
Modoc.
Modoc.
Modoc for sure, and I don't know about Shasta.
Okay, I can check on those and on those.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this item? Alrighty, we'll bring it back. I'm looking for a motion that includes the supervisor.
I'll make a motion that includes the supervisor, all those changes to include Lassen and Modoc.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. Thanks, Richard, for that.
You're welcome.
Where did I-
Okay. Let's get Jeff out of here. Okay, we'll take up, so let's see.
8.
D8. We'll take up item D8. Would you like to give a briefing on that one, Richard? D8.
Peter?
We're back. Follow up on did a board tour a few weeks ago. The board went on a tour over the admin building down there where the courts used to occupy that in the corner too. Since that time, Mr. Morrish from ST has come up with some conceptual plans based on discussions that were had during that meeting. And he's here, and we'll stick him up there and have some smaller handouts. He's got 3 different floor plans to look at. Susan there has them, and then we'll put the bigger one up here behind staff. Have some here more on that. Anybody in the audience would like one too?
You have to do plans.
Yeah.
Jeff Warren, County City Engineering. I've been hired by the county to review the Board of Supervisors chambers future remodel. Back in 2000, this particular structure was remodeled. This is actually the basement of the courthouse annex. And as we discussed a couple weeks ago, the intent is for you guys to find space for larger chambers, mainly so that you can have additional seating for the public. Just kind of give you an idea, this particular room is about 20 by 34, which is 680 square feet. The present annex courtroom, huh? 20 by 34, about 680 square feet. The present courtroom at the courthouse annex is 29 by 38. So it's a little 9 feet wider, 4 feet deeper, and it has 1,102 square feet. The options that we're going to be proposing here vary in size, but they're all fairly close to one another. Option A is the design that was discussed at the tour with the Board of Supervisors. And it's pretty much in keeping with what Jim Chapman had suggested. This particular one is 29 feet wide. It opens up to about 31 feet wide and is 49 feet deep. So it's 1,472 square feet. The area that is considered for remodeling is about 3,450 square feet total. And as we discussed at that meeting, this remodel could be done in 2 phases. However, because of the need to maintain fire exiting, it needs to be at least master planned right now, whether the entire facility is remodeled. So what we did is we created a space for meeting. There's
What do you mean by master plan? Can you enlighten?
master plan means to design it for the total space for future use, so that you're not creating spaces that are being unused right now that may or may not be able to be used in the future due to accessibility, whether it's ADA accessibility or just accessibility by hallways and that type of thing. We don't want to create a remodel for the board chambers that's going to make it impossible to utilize the entire building. So anyway, what we've done is created a space that has more seating. There can be up to about 85 people within this particular chamber. Some of the things we have to deal with in that space are the steel support columns, as well as an electrical panel that's in the existing corridor, but would be part of this board chambers. And so to reduce cost, we tried to incorporate the steel columns and the electrical panel within the design.
Show us the electrical panel on the
Electrical panel is sitting right here at this time.
You wouldn't have to move it by this design.
We would not move it with this design. Depending on the design that you desire, there's all sorts of ways to create the seating area. In this particular one, we show a lot of seating on the outside walls, and then 2 aisles, and then additional seating in the middle. And one of the things that's will be an issue is when you begin to remodel this building, you will have to bring it up to ADA compliance. So anything that's constructed has to be accessible, including the board seating and the clerk seating. So steps as we have them here can be used, but there also has to be some other type of access, either by ramp or by elevator. Now, it's not really an elevator, it's called a wheelchair lift, but it still takes up space.
Does the board seating area have to be elevated?
The board seating does not have to be elevated. It is to an advantage to have it elevated just for sight lines from the public, especially when you have a facility that's almost 50 feet long. It would be nice to have it up. It is not required. We've also tried to put some space for staff seating. That is all can be changed or arranged accordingly based on what you guys design. This particular layout does have 2 exits. One is near the present exit to the courtroom, and we go out into a foyer. It would also eventually go out into this little foyer here. So you come out here, and then exit here, or exit to the outside. The existing entry doors that are on the side, south side of the building would have to be revised or changed just to make sure that they're ADA accessible. Yes, it has to go out.
Jeff, you said this one here was about 1,470 feet?
That's correct.
And A, B, and C are all about the same?
Yes. What we've also tried to do in this space is there would be some sort of IT storage area where all your IT would be kept. You would also have a space for storage for the supervisors if necessary behind the seating. We've added 5 office spaces as well as a conference room. There is a small restroom off of the judges' chambers, which would eventually become the conference room. If the restroom remains, it would have to be ADA accessible. And we show that on this plan. The existing men's and women's restrooms in the downstairs were upgraded in 2000 to meet ADA guidelines at the time. Of course, we are now in 2013 California Building Code. Because of the cost of this remodel, you'll have to bring everything up to that code standard. And so really the only thing that's a big issue is the accessibility into the 2 restrooms. The door as well as the turning space on each side of the door. Back in 2000, those were left out of compliance because of a hardship issue. One of the rooms directly adjacent to the men's restroom had all of your phone terminals and everything for the building. And so it was decided at the time by the building department and building official that we could leave it as is. That's Plan A. Do you have any questions on that one?
Seating space, did you say, 80?
It's actual seating of 75 to 80 people. And then you'd have staff and board of supervisors, I figured about 12. So you're under 100.
Is it possible that area just to the left of where you have the clerk sitting, you have a solid wall that kind of divides the boardroom from that hallway that goes back towards the restroom? Is that possible to turn into a doorway and that hallway continue all the way through so you could connect that way out?
Yes, that is possible.
I mean, you have it part of that one office, but you can chop off that little extension of the office and just have that be a hallway and board access, I think would be really
Right in
helpful.
here.
Yeah.
The only difficulty you have with this is if you have a corridor that's over 20 feet long, it has to be accessible to the outside. Okay? And so I don't envision, if you're considering making this corridor come all the way through, I don't believe that would be legal. Right now, this corridor is 20 feet long.
That's 20 feet long.
It's about 18 right now.
Is it possible to take where you have the 4 offices that you sit there and move them to the left so that the corridor comes down from, on the right side of the office rather than the left side?
Over here?
No, yeah, like that.
Yes, that is possible.
Because I'm just thinking is that when it comes to, just access, like for staff, if they were utilizing the conference room area for taking care of, remote business wise, and then they want to come back to the board chambers, they have to walk a long ways around to get there, where they could just come in at that entrance.
That's true. What you could do, Jim, is if you had a door here and this remained a door, so this is the office, and you use this for staff, you could put a window or something with a door. They could come into this room and then access, and that would be fine.
Yeah, that would be a way to do it too, is just have a door going in that little office and then have that as like a little vestibule or something.
Right.
Yeah, that could do. I mean, I'm just saying, is it for access coming into the boardroom from that area, I think would be, otherwise you have to kind of walk a long ways around, and
Right.
it may not be a primary access, but you still want to have some access.
That's correct. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind in this boardroom is that you do have 2 beams here and one beam behind the supervisors that is hanging down below the ceiling. It's probably about a foot down. There's no way to change that, and so it will affect some of your sight. So if you do raise up this area for the chambers, I would only do about 6 inches. Makes it easy to get a ramp up to it, and you have one step, and you're not getting up in the way of that beam.
Because some board chambers that I've seen either on TV or, at meetings we at, they don't elevate it like this is elevated. This is kind of more like how the court would do it with judge
Right.
sitting there rather than and the board bench that we had back in the old days, in the old room, it was lower than this. I think it had 1 step going up to it.
Yeah, right now you're at 2 steps. So
Yeah.
you're about 12 inches off. Okay. Any other questions there?
So, just say your name.
Eileen Spencer. Am I wrong, you're showing bench seating?
You could use bench. All I've done is shown a designation of an area. I would envision these to be chairs, similar to what we have here. You could put on the outside the old benches from the courthouse. We're trying to save money.
Before you change that.
I have another question. After looking at the set of plans that I got from Pete, the county doesn't have any money to do this. I mean, that's a big obstacle. And I like the idea of doing it in maybe 3 phases, doing what the board is expediting, which is a new boardroom. But to build these other offices on the other side, you're building space for whom? you may not even need but maybe 1 or 2 offices. I mean, you're building and designing for whom? I mean, we don't have anybody, no discussion or anything about, 2/3 of this building.
That's true.
And so I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves since we have no money to do this, that the courtroom should be designed, I mean, not the courtroom, the boardroom should be designed to be functional for the public and the board. And then, as you say, work on the master plan for the other 2/3 of the building. But right now, to spend money on a design for the middle of this building, when you have no money, and you don't know who's gonna be in there, it just isn't logical.
Okay,
Well-
sorry, point of order, I like to, Jeff he's working for the county, so you can, if you have comments, direct them to the.
I didn't know you had any knowledge of this, I would have, excuse
We'll
me.
take them into the, in consideration, but we're not gonna have all this dialogue going on between you and Jeff. Thanks, sorry about that.
Me bad, information is really bad.
Okay, so is that good?
No, I have another question.
Okay.
Dealing with this board plan, you have the media and the podium and the staff and the clerk sitting kind of at a distance from where the board seats. Is it possible to move that closer to where the board is seating? You'd have kind of a big open area there, which would actually add additional seating for the audience here, because that was, when we were over there, that was the intent of trying to utilize as much space for.
Yeah, there is no problem with moving these forward, adding 1 or 2 more
Because I think
rows of
staff,
seating, that would not be a
I
problem.
think staff also, the feedback that I've had from them over a long period of time, but more recently since we've had this discussion, is creating space for them to work. And one option that I think that we need to include is, rather than having a podium like we have here, which is a limited space, what was very functional in the former days in that room was it was actually a work table that actually sat out in that well area in front of the board. So whoever was presenting, whether it was the auditor with budgets or planning with their stuff, there may be, and the table was easy to accommodate at a minimum of 2, maybe 3 people sitting there with plenty of workspace so they could have whatever documents. And they kind of sat basically looking eye to eye to the board. And then if you wanted to have, permanent staff that comes and it stays there, it'd be like you have the seating now with the council, and it could be on one side or the other as it frames that space. But the middle space, instead of having a podium, would be to have a regular work table that sat out there that would accommodate a place to, spread stuff out. Sometimes that's needed, oftentimes more so than not. Now, if you wanted to have adjacent to that, kind of a raised little podium where somebody would stand versus sit when they were addressing the board, then you could probably incorporate that. But I'd rather see us work towards, because I've always felt this was a limiting factor here. But the problem is we just, the space here, as you're talking about, this room is 10 feet wider and how many feet longer than what we have in the current space. You don't have a lot of room to put a table that people can sit at.
That's true. Yes, you get, this is about 3 feet between here and these desks or cabinets, whatever they are, could be moved down. Key is making sure that whatever we do has good ADA accessibility.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, and that's just, some ideas for potential modifications.
Okay, plan B.
So, before we go, so these suggestions and possible modifications to Plan A, how are we gonna relay that? Because we can't expect Jeff to remember everything and listen to the tape. Is somebody making notes? And then we'll, put that in writing, give to Jeff. Okay, just wanna make sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, plan B, basically is taking the existing boardroom and expanding it in one direction to the north.
The existing court, I mean, the existing court.
Courtroom.
Yeah.
Say court?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Courtroom. And so the width is exactly what's there now.
Minus the prisoners,
That's correct, that'd be all taken out. And then we would deepen it. Okay?
what would be the major?
29 by 48. So size-wise, it's virtually the same as the other. Plan A is a little wider at the public seating area. And so this is only 1,400 square feet. It's still twice as much as what you have here.
More than twice.
So the intent would be to maintain the corridor that is there for accessibility. We would have to have two exits, at least two exits out of the meeting room, board chambers, and we have that. The IT storage would probably be in the hallway rather than behind the board seating area. And then any conference rooms, offices would be to the bottom of the page there along the corridor.
Would this have to be a master plan too?
I would. Yes. Now the key on this one is that we would be taking out some framing that is here. So we'd be building this wall and this wall.
Where's the electrical panel?
The electrical panel is approximately right there.
And that would remain there?
That would remain there. And so all this space, at this time, would be left as is. There's several walls that we're proposing to construct, but they would not be done at this time. So this would be the only thing that we would be doing right now. And so as far as construction costs, that's probably the cheapest way to go.
With those walls, especially the corridor side of those walls, would it be possible to construct those with glass in them, in parts of it?
That is possible. The glass would have to be a wire glass, fire rated, pretty expensive. So you wouldn't want to have any big panes of glass.
The reason for that is for, that's the problem with this room here, is if you had some glass, it actually allows the room to be, and it also allows for people to be able to observe in. If you fill up the room and you have people in an overflow, at least they can see in, and, with speakers and stuff, you can actually pipe sound if necessary, even into the hallways. I'm just looking at, at some point in time, even that room will be small enough too small for, public, and having some, not a whole lot, but I think having some strategically placed on the public seating side of the wall would be, I think, advantageous.
That's correct. Now, in this particular design, there is one steel column that will be in the middle of the building, all right, middle of the room.
And where's the beams at in relation?
And this is the column. And the steel beam comes right through here.
And that
And
would be
there's
right-
another one that's right there.
How tall is it to the bottom of the beam?
I did not measure it. I think it's about 7'3".
That's what I was gonna say, exactly.
That's roughly, this is kind of more of the configuration of the old boardroom with the beam down the middle, except it has a lot more seating for the public area than the old boardroom. The old boardroom, instead of being 48 feet deep, it was probably, 36 feet deep.
Jeff, so the seating area on this, are they all the same? I mean, I know the diagram has a lot more benches drawn in, but is each of these plans fit about the same people, 75 to 80?
Yeah, this one fits
More.
about, it's pretty equal. I think it's probably about 5 seats less.
You're rating this one at 85 for the seating.
Okay.
public seating, and the first one you rated for 77.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That makes sense.